Hey guys, this is Daniel here with Heads or Tails History. So today we're going to talk about a little bit of American numismatic history. Now when you think about that, you probably are going to picture Morgan dollars or Walking Liberty half dollars, maybe even some of the earlier coins that were struck by our mint. But what if I told you that one of the most important coins in early American history is not even American at all? So this is a Spanish 8 reals, struck in Mexico City in the year of 1789. That is the same year George Washington became President of the United States. In fact, this coin predates the establishment of the United States Mint. But yet coins like this are what circulated as money throughout our new American nation. So this is a piece of American numismatic history that I'm willing to bet more than a couple of you don't know. So the year 1789, the Constitution has taken effect. George Washington has just been inaugurated as the first American president. The machinery of our federal government is just starting to operate, but we have a problem. We don't have a United States Mint. We have not established at this point a way to produce coins for circulation. But our economy cannot grind to a halt. We can't stop and sit and wait till we get money to spend. Commerce still has to be facilitated throughout this nation. Well, what did we use? We used money just like this. It's an 8 reals, more commonly known in the English-speaking world as a Spanish milled dollar. You've also probably heard it referred to as a piece of 8. Well, this is the coin that we're talking about. This is a piece of 8 and 8 reals. By the 18th century, Spanish silver had become one of the greatest international currencies in the world. It was coins like this that crossed the Atlantic. They traveled across the Pacific Ocean. They reached markets far away as Asia. And the reason that this happened was simple. These coins were trusted. These coins had an established purity, an established weight. The merchant might not know the person who is handing them the coin, but they knew the coin. They could immediately look at it. They've handled enough of them, and they knew that this was the standard and this was the piece of 8, and they knew what the value of it was, and they knew how to charge based off of what the silver content and the weight they had. So that made these coins useful far beyond the Spanish Empire. In many ways, it was the 18th century version of an international currency. And one thing that I want to look at to draw attention to on this particular coin that we have here in front of us today, the 1789 8 reals minted in Mexico City. So this coin, if you look closely, you'll see Carlos IV is the inscription across the side of it. But if you know what you're looking at, you can look at it and tell you that is not Carlos IV's picture on this coin. So 1788, Carlos III had died in December. Then what happens is, well, the news of the new king, Carlos IV, he's the son of the third, he goes in, all hail the king. Well, the news of the new king can travel a lot faster than the dies and the new engravings can get produced. So they can't stop producing coins in Mexico City, which was one of the massive silver producing and coining hubs for the Spanish Empire. So the Mexico City Mint adjusts the graving on the side to reflect Carlos IV. However, they just continue using the photo engraving. They continue to use the portrait of the now deceased Carlos III. So the 1789 Mexico mint 8 reals. You've got two kings on one coin. So cool. So if you got Carlos III's portrait underneath the inscription of Carlos IV. One thing hiding in the history of these coins, we talked about their piece of 8. Well, the Spanish dollar was divided into 8 reals. And when smaller change was scarce, they'd take these large coins and they could actually be cut into fractional pieces. 1/2 of the coin was 4 reals, 1/4 of the coin was 2 reals, an eighth of a coin became 1 real. So literally a piece of 8. Another term that we use in Americans is bits. So you had 2 bits, 6 bits, 4 bits, 8 bits would be $1. And that all comes from the 8 reals. 2 bits, shaving a haircut, 2 bits, that was a quarter. That is a quarter real. Now you know.
One point that is going to surprise most people is once America did establish their own mint and they started minting coins, these coins didn't automatically become illegal and useless. And so the young country and the young mint simply could not produce enough coins to supply the growing and booming economy in the growing country. So Congress continued to recognize these foreign coins at legally established values. So this Spanish dollar circulated right alongside coins that were produced by the United States Mint, and they continued to have a legal tender status up until 1857. Now, 1857, that is nearly 70 years after this particular coin was struck. And that's merely 4 short years before our American Civil War. We are still circulating these Spanish milled dollars. And that goes to say about the faith and the purity and the trust of these coins in our young economy. Now, I keep coming back to this date, 1789. So while this coin was being struck in Mexico City, George Washington was in New York taking the oath of office. The new federal government was just starting to organize itself. Alexander Hamilton had not yet submitted his plan for a United States mint. There was no Philadelphia mint. There was no U.S. dimes. There was no United States quarters. There were no United States half dollars. There were no U.S. silver dollars. We ran on Spanish dollars. So that's why I'm not going to consider this as simply a Spanish coin. It is Spanish history, Mexican history, global economic history, and it's American numismatic history. It was struck for Carlos IV with a posthumous portrait of his father Carlos III in Mexico City during the same year that George Washington became our president. It belonged to a currency that was recognized all around the world, and it was coins like this that helped keep commerce moving in a country that did not yet have enough money on its own. So before America was minting its own silver dollars, it already had a dollar, and it looked like this. I'm Daniel, and this has been Heads or Tails, the stories behind the change.